Hope everybody had a good weekend. Um, Under severe thunderstorm watch right now, I think for up until 9 o'clock today. So keep your umbrella handy and take care not to get caught in one of those. We're going to begin here by talking a little bit about the COVID numbers. And you probably heard on the news that across the state of Missouri, we have had a number of a pretty big increase, but those numbers are not reflected in what's happening here in the St. Louis region and specifically here in the city of St. Louis. So that's the good news. We know that in southwest Missouri, near Springfield, Joplin, that area, those counties, McDonald County, there are half a dozen counties there. They are seeing a big increase in cases over the weekend. But fortunately, here in St. Louis, there were, and this is as of yesterday, 17, and this is for the region, 17 new people admitted to the hospital. Yesterday, the hospital census was 228. That continues to go down. A week ago, let me go back about a week. Here it was 246. A week before that, it was 271. Back on June 6th, so that's what, a little more than 2 weeks ago, it was 309. So we are continuing to go down in terms of the number of people that are in the hospital. We are a little bit concerned that a lot of new cases in outstate Missouri, a lot of those folks will rely on our regional hospital system, may become hospitalized here. Depends on where they are, depends on what the healthcare facilities are like in their area, but that is, that remains to be a concern. So we just have to continue to socially distance, and we have to continue to wear masks. You really shouldn't be out in public without a mask on. Between that and social distancing, that is the only way that we're going to continue to be able to somewhat control the transmission and the spread of COVID-19. Unfortunately, it seems that masks and even social distancing to some extent have become a political statement. Please don't fall for that. This is not about politics in any way. This is simply about how to tamp down and continue to tamp down the spread of COVID-19. So wear a mask for yourself, wear a mask for your friends and your family, and don't fall into that political trap. It's something we all need to do, and so thank you for remembering that. Most St. Louisans that I see, I was out at a few stores, grocery store, a couple of other stores over the weekend. I had to do a little bit of Father's Day shopping, and I waited in a line probably 20 minutes to go into a store, and you had to have a mask on. They had someone at the front door. I had mine with me, of course, and it worked out fine. We got the Father's Day presents and got back home. So thank you all for that participation. So one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about, maybe some of you will think this is too early to talk about it, but I want to talk about fireworks. At my house, I am hearing lots of fireworks. Frankly, not even always at night or dark time. Afternoon, evening, I'm hearing lots of fireworks. Next week, I'm going to have the fire chief join me for one of these Live with Lydas, either on Monday or Wednesday, the week before, to try to implore you not to shoot off fireworks. They are dangerous. They are illegal. Did I say they are dangerous? Even more important, probably, they are dangerous. Last year, maybe year before last, we had a business, a deli, burned to the ground because fireworks landed on the roof, started the roof on fire. The whole thing went up in flames. The police department does have, again this year, a fireworks detail. Is that what they call it? Yeah, fireworks detail. similar to last year. The numbers that I have last year are that there were 736 calls for fireworks. That's just on the 4th of July and maybe the day before or two. I'm sure the police department's already getting calls for fireworks. If you don't know where the sound is coming from, they won't be able to find it either. If you can give a better description, your neighbor, someone shooting off fireworks on the street, they can respond better to that. But sound travels, and so it's very tough to know where a firework is shot off from. Last year, there were about 30 people who received summonses or arrests. And is that right? 30, yes, arrests last year. And so we'll continue to do that this year, but more than calling the police, which if you see someone doing this, you call 911. If not, you can call 231-1212, which is the non-emergency line. Fireworks are a lower level offense than shots fired, for example, or than a shooting, or than another violent crime. So understand that. But I'm just asking each of you to, even though I know fireworks are fun, there was a time in my life when I loved shooting off fireworks, but doing it in the heart of our densely populated city just puts a lot of people in danger. Every year, the fire department responds to buildings on fire as a result of fireworks. People have been very, very seriously hurt because of fireworks. So this isn't going to be the last time I'm going to talk about fireworks between now and the 4th of July. Just asking you not to do it, even though I get it, it's fun. It's dangerous, especially in our city that is so densely populated, where there's so many buildings that can be caught on fire. And then that puts our firefighters at risk. That puts our police officers at risk. So enough said, but you get the drift, I think. We'll talk more about fireworks probably every Monday, Wednesday, Friday till after the 4th of July. So please, though, use some restraint. I saw a TV news story last night. I don't remember what channel it was on, but there was a gentleman on who owns fireworks stands out in the counties where they're illegal, out away from St. Louis, and he said he's selling more fireworks than ever. We also know that the fireworks are getting bigger, more explosives in them, and getting more dangerous. They're not, like when well, sparklers are dangerous too, but so anyway, please restrain yourself. Don't shoot off fireworks in the city. County, it's illegal in the county too, but I'll let them do their talking. So that's second thing. So I'm going to talk about rec centers here. Is that
Sure.
my third topic, rec centers? So the city, 6 of the city's rec centers opened today for 2-week recreation programs. There are still some slots available. They'll also have these are from 6 to 12-year-olds, so 6 years old to 12-year-olds. And they'll start another session in 2 weeks on the 6th of July, and then another one after that on the 20th, I think is the date. So summer rec programs with social distancing are starting today. So they won't have all of the activities, but they are having some activities. So if you want your kids to get in there, go online and register for those programs. All right. Do we have any questions? Maybe some leftover questions from Friday or
A
Sunday?
little bit of both live questions and leftover.
Okay.
Question from Tanya, who's watching.
Hi, Tanya.
Have there been any confirmed COVID case increases due to some of the protests and gatherings that have happened in the region?
You never know what they're due to until you're able to contact trace all those folks. I will tell you that new cases in the city, there have been a few, 27 new cases were reported on Friday. And, it has been running in the teens. And so maybe a few, but right now at least we're not seeing big increases. Now you understand, I'm sure, that many of the people who participate in protests don't live in the city of St. Louis. They live in St. Louis County. They live in other parts of the region. They live in Illinois. So we may not see those numbers reported in the city numbers because many of the protests have people from outside the city of St. Louis participating in them. So if they did test positive for COVID, they would be reported where they live. So.
Speaking of contact tracing, we did get a question about how the city's contact tracing process is going.
It's going well. I don't know if any of you saw the article yesterday in the New York Times. I might be able to find it, I probably could find it and post it. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read it or not, but because sometimes that stuff is behind a paywall. But we'll find it and post it. And it is a story about, a news article rather, about contact tracing in New York City and comparing it to some other things. And it's not going so well, frankly, because they have hired tons of, or many folks who are not trained. And contact tracing is a skill. It's done best by epidemiologists and by infectious disease individuals. And so that's what we are primarily using here in the city of St. Louis, are highly trained infectious disease people. We're also using residents, meaning medical residents, and some folks that are involved in the medical profession who are doing sort of maybe it's an internship or whatever you might want to call it, with the health department to help us. So we are also hiring contact tracers, but it's really important that those people receive adequate training. And I'll find the article in the New York Times yesterday and post it. I think you'll find it interesting. It's not as simple as just, having a call for anybody who needs a job and paying $15 an hour and being done with it. So I'll post that.
So we do have a question, and you sort of addressed this, Mayor, from Andy Banker from Channel 2. You talked about the new record of new cases in one day reported in parts of the state of Missouri. His question is, does it make sense then now to put stay-at-home orders back in place for the St. Louis region if we're worried about the potential impact of those cases on our region? Why or why not?
I don't think it makes sense right now to do that, to put a stay-at-home order in place. And I hope it won't ever be required. But we are watching it. And as you know, Andy, we are relying primarily on how many people are hospitalized, new hospitalizations, and how many people are in the ICU and on ventilators. So one of the things that we said in Health Department Order number 10, which applied to large venues, is that our metric is going to be, if there's a day, 4 out of 5 days where we have 35 people admitted to the hospital in this region, then we are going to consider pulling back. It was 4 out of 5 days at 35, and if we have 3 out of 4 days at 40, then we're going to consider pulling back. What does pulling back mean? It probably does not initially mean a complete stay-at-home order again, but it may mean a pullback on large venues, etc.
Dell is watching and has a question about whether the city will consider summer activities for youth who are older than 12, so 13 years and older.
Not at this point in our recreation centers. There are other people doing that work, Boys and Girls Clubs and other folks, because certainly as a parent, my kids are grown, but they almost need more supervision from, in their teens than they do when they're little. So that's a challenge for parents. But in our rec programs right now, it's only going 6 to 12.
We have many questions about why the city won't just make mask wearing mandatory like many other jurisdictions have across the country to protect the community and especially the vulnerable populations.
You should wear a mask. If you go out in public, wear a mask. Then the question becomes, and we've said that many times, there are also many businesses that will not let you in unless you are wearing a mask. But we try not to put something in place that we don't have the ability to enforce. We're trying to use persuasion with you, with the people that you live with, or people that are within your circle. So I say every day, you've got to wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, if you refuse to wear a mask, you are making it more likely that we will have to pull back on our economy. And I don't think anybody wants that. That's why I said, if you were watching earlier, I said, you know, mask wearing should not be a political issue. This is a health issue, strictly a health issue, not a political issue. Don't fall for that. Wear a mask.
Where can someone report a business that is over capacity or not complying with social distancing rules? This person was out over the weekend and saw a restaurant packed with people.
622-4800 is the Citizen Service Bureau. Give us the name of the business. Give us their address if you can, because some businesses have multiple addresses. And tell us what day it was, time of day. What we will do is call that business, talk to that manager or business owner. Those employees they are required to wear a mask. Employees in a restaurant are required to wear masks. They are also required to have tables 6 feet apart and to have social distancing, and customers should be wearing a mask into the restaurant until they get seated at their table and they're actually eating. And then they should wear it if they have to get up and go to the bathroom, or if they get up and leave, they should be wearing a mask. So 622-4800.
We have another park road closure question, Mayor. Victor would like to know if we can just keep the roads in Carondelet Park closed to traffic because there's enough parking around the park.
There's one road in Carondelet Park that's open, as I recall. It's been open the whole time. It's the road that goes right through the park. I'm not sure what the name of it is. Maybe it's Grand, or not sure. But so the other roads are still closed in Carondelet Park. I have to tell you, we talk about this on every Facebook Live. People are of two minds about this. You want all the roads closed. I happen to like that myself. However, there are folks who want to be able to drive through the park, and frankly, folks who need to be able to drive through the park. Everybody who wants to use that park is probably not as able-bodied as you might be. So there's a balancing act here between keeping some roads closed, keeping some roads open, so that everybody, folks with disabilities, folks who are older who can't walk long distances to the park, do need to be able to drive into parks, these large parks. Carondelet's large, Forest Park is large, O'Fallon is large. So some roads need to be open, and I get it. It is a balancing act. We're trying to walk that line and keep everybody as happy as possible.
So we have questions on other non-COVID related topics. Mark Cole is watching and wants to know why the city is spending $7 million on cure violence when it has failed in every other city.
Mark, last year we set aside $7 million to be spent over 3 years. And frankly, cure violence has been effective in some locations. It's my understanding that, not every city that implements cure violence is true to the cure violence methodology. And that's one of the things that cure violence says. So, I'm not sure. We have a violence issue in our city. We have way too much violence, way too many people shooting off guns and being shot. I think right now the city of St. Louis is at 91 homicides for the year so far. That's more than we had last year at this time. And so cure violence is an interrupter model, and clearly we need to do some things differently. And so we have a 3-year commitment to cure violence in 3 different neighborhoods. We just launched on Saturday. You might have seen this on my social media. There was a launch of the Cure Violence Initiative in Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood. Wells-Goodfellow / Hamilton Heights, both neighborhoods a part in each of those. The location there is at 5200 Natural Bridge. It's basically the corner of Natural Bridge and Belt. And I met the 8 individuals that have been hired to work for Cure Violence as interrupters. And, I think that we can't continue to do everything the same way we have been doing because we still have an awful lot of violence. Now, some of that has to do with the gun laws in our state, which basically are anybody can carry a gun anywhere, anytime. That makes it very, very challenging situation, but that is something that that we have to deal with because that's the state law.
Elise has a question about the $6 million body cameras. Do you think that they will prevent police brutality against people in the city of St. Louis?
I think body cameras are a tool. They're a tool both for policemen and they're a tool for the public that the police interact with. It's not only body cameras, it's body cameras and dash cameras. And I think it's a tool. Most cities have implemented body cameras over the last few years. And I do think it's a tool that we need to have, just like we have cameras now on street corners, at traffic signals. We have cameras in many places where 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't have that. Those are all tools. They're present day tools. Just like, 10 or 15 years ago, you didn't have cameras in your cell phone. You didn't have, it's an evolution. And I think that it's something that we need to do, which will keep both police officers and the public safer.
Tish has a very good question, and she's watching, and she'd like to know, Mayor Krewson, how can leaders in the city of St. Louis reach young Black men and women in this defining moment with homicide being high? How can we address and find solutions for this? Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Tish. So, I think it has to be done in a number of ways, and it starts when kids are really little. We all know that. But all along the way, we have to continue to reach out to young people, to make them feel valued, to give them hope for their life, to give them the skills and the training that they need. And there are many, many good programs in St. Louis who work with young people. Boys and Girls Clubs, I mentioned them earlier, the Wyman Center, Mental Health Board funds programs. There are many programs that work with young people. We just need to do more and continue to do that more. Best opportunity for a young person is to get the education they need, the skills they need, the job training they need, so that they can be employed, have the pride of a job well done and money in their pocket, be treated fairly and equitably. That is the best antidote to violence.
Nicholas has a question, Mayor. How is the city of St. Louis working with businesses that are having problems post-COVID-19 with reopening?
So, Nicholas, you probably know, and if you don't, go on our website and it'll be easy to find. We can post it again, a link to the website where the city of St. Louis is taking applications right now for $5,000 grants to small businesses 25 and under, 25 employees and under, small businesses, to help them bridge the gap between being closed or substantially reduced to where they need to be now. That's one way. Small Business Administration, we can also help you with loans and programs there. And want to support our businesses in every way possible, because when our businesses are struggling, what that means is that our employees, our residents who work there or used to work there, are struggling. So we're doing everything that we can within the money that we can to help small businesses get back on their feet.
We do have a question about a possible special session for the Missouri legislature. If they were to come back, what kind of laws specifically related to police reforms would you be interested in asking them to consider?
So in a special session, it's my understanding that they can only consider things that were previously on the table. But I do know that there are some folks trying to get them to consider the requirement for various police reforms, such as banning chokeholds, banning no-knock warrants, making sure that police officers have a responsibility to report another officer who is engaged in some bad behavior. So all of those things we support. And by the way, we do all those things. They are all policies within the city of St. Louis, but there are many, many police departments in our region, and there are not any standards for those police departments. I think that would be another good thing. Frankly, there should be a national standard there. But all of those things could be considered by the legislature. Now, there are other things that should be considered by the legislature as well. I don't know if there will be a special session or not. I have read it's up to the governor to call that special session. Certainly the Wayfair issue, I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's named Wayfair because of the internet company that sells primarily furniture and that sort of thing. Some of you, I'm sure, have gotten their ads in your feed. And so for Wayfair, or for anything that you order over the internet, the idea is that you should pay the sales tax if you order it over the internet. If you don't pay that sales tax, sometimes called a use tax also, same thing. If you don't pay the sales tax, then the guy that's got a store, a brick and mortar store, you got to pay the sales tax there, so why not have to pay it online if you want your brick and mortar stores to survive? So that's another issue that folks hope the legislature will take up.
We do have a question about the petition to take down the King Louis IX statue in Forest Park, and if you have a position or thoughts on that.
So I've seen on social media that there are two petitions. One is a petition to take it down, and the other is a petition to leave it up. So I think I'm not in favor of changing the name of St. Louis to something else, or of taking down the statue in Forest Park with the statue of St. Louis in it. I frankly think that it's a bit of a distraction from doing the real hard work that needs to be done in St. Louis and around the world, frankly, to reduce the disparities between black and white. And we know that there are big disparities. And so for me, I'm not in favor of changing the name of St. Louis to the city of St. Louis. I guess we'd have to change St. Louis County too. I don't know. And, maybe we'd have to change the name of Jefferson Street or Washington University or Lee Avenue. Or I think that those are symbols, but I'm not in favor of changing the name of our city.
We have many, many questions wondering why you haven't closed the workhouse, when the workhouse is closing, and if you're intentionally not answering questions about the workhouse.
No, we'll talk about that. I've talked about the workhouse many times on this Facebook Live and in other places as well. So when I came into office about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, there were hundreds of people at the MSI. There were about 1,450 people in total being detained in one of our two jails, 700 and some at CJC and 600 or 700 at MSI. So we immediately tried to convene various elements of the criminal justice system to try to reduce those numbers. A lot of people played an effort in that. The Bail Reform Project had an effort. Judges had an effort, circuit attorneys has an effort, defense attorneys made the effort. So the city of St. Louis does not get to decide who's detained in our jails. It's not our choice. That decision is made by the circuit attorney and by the judges. And so whoever they put in one of our jails, detain in one of our jails, we have to keep. We don't get to wake up one morning and decide, oh, I think I'll let these these people here out. So the people that are in the MSI right now are all there on felony charges. They're there on serious charges. And as a result of that, I don't think it's appropriate to close MSI right now, because we either have to let those folks go, and that's not our choice. We don't get to decide that. Or we'd have to take those folks and get them into CJC, which would overcrowd CJC. We have reduced the budget of MSI in half this year, from 16 million to 8 million. And we'll continue to reduce it more. I'm confident of that, provided the population stays about where it is now. So we need judges to move those cases more quickly, and either have a trial, have a plea bargain, whatever it is. And we need judges, circuit attorneys, and defensive attorneys to do that. And moving cases more quickly would reduce the number of people that are being detained in jails. But that is a decision that's not made by the mayor's office. It's made by judges, circuit attorneys.
We do have a question from Kate, who says she's left several messages with the license office and wants to know what she should do, and is City Hall open?
The license collector office is an independently elected office in the city of St. Louis, so they do not report to the mayor. That's part of our own fragmentation here. But yes, they are open. They've been open since June 1st, I think was the date. They're open. They're there every day. I'm not sure what time you're calling, but I'm sure they're probably picking up their phone today, so maybe give them another ring. I'm not sure what their message system is. You can also, by the way, if you're trying to renew a business license, you can renew online. So take that effort. They have folks there. They have places for folks to wait if you want to come in. But they should be picking up their phone.
We do have a question, Mayor, from Jerry about board bill number 71. Do you know that off the top of your head?
Jerry, what's the subject?
It is authorizing the mayor to enter into a long-term leasing agreement of the operation and management of the airport.
This is the airport bill? Okay.
Thoughts on board bill 71, and will you sign it if it gets to your desk?
So that bill, which was just introduced last Friday, and often I don't call the board bills by their numbers. That's why I didn't know number 71 is the airport bill. That bill says that if it gets to the ballot and it passes by 60%, that anyone who bids $1.7 million or more for the airport will lease the airport for 50 years, 49 years. I think right now, as we struggle at our airport, there was a day not too many weeks ago where we only had 800 people fly in and out of our airport. So for me, it's very important that we continue to work with our airline partners, which is biggest one is Southwest Airlines. Last year, 62% of our flights were on Southwest Airlines. American Airlines is second. United. We've got to continue to work with them to keep them with the flights coming in and out of Lambert. And they have a choice. They don't have to fly connections through here. They probably have to fly a few flights in and out of here, but they don't have to fly nearly the number that they are now. So before I would make a final decision on that, I would certainly want to have the support of the airlines before I did that. I know that today there's two ways that something can get on the ballot. One is the Board of Aldermen can vote to put something on the ballot. The second way is called initiative petition. You get petition signatures. In this case, it takes about 20,000 petition signatures to get something on the ballot. And I just read, I think it was in the Business Journal a little bit ago, that these folks that are collecting those petition signatures will expect to turn in 38,000 of them today, tomorrow, whatever day they get it there. And if that is the case, then those signatures, if there are at least 20,000 or the correct number verified, then it will go on the November ballot. If that occurs, it's interesting. I think There are some issues with that petition and with the new charter amendment. And it would take 60% of the people of St. Louis to want to do that. And, we will have to, if that occurs, maybe some of you know this, maybe you don't, but the folks that did the first study through Grow Missouri for the city of St. Louis and are the same folks that are behind the initiative petition process. And that entity will get paid all the money that they have put into this. Some estimate that it's between $45 and $50 million. So that's a big chunk of money. So we'll see.
We have a question about the November election. Susan is asking what's being done to protect voting rights in the city of St. Louis for November. She fears that communities of color could be targeted for polling place closures. Is the Board of Election Commissioners being proactive about protecting voting rights for November?
Absolutely. The city of St. Louis has, I think the number is 222, maybe 225 different precincts in the city of St. Louis, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 or 60 polling places, because as you might know, sometimes two precincts will vote at the same polling places. And the election board has gone to great lengths to make sure that those polling places are accessible to people of all abilities, and to make sure that those polling places are open from 6 in the morning till 7 at night, which are our polling places. The other thing that is going to be occurring in November is easier access to absentee voting. And so there are a lot of folks that are working on that right now as well. So yes, we will absolutely, we are not interested in impeding anyone's ability to vote. If I had my way, we could all do mail-in voting. I don't have my way. It's a state law.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Daniel has an interesting question. There have been a lot of talk in St. Louis right now about taking down statues, renaming names, or renaming roads, but no one's talking about putting up new statues. How can we start brainstorming ideas for new ways to celebrate our city? Is there an office at City Hall or a specific committee where I could start this process?
There's not an office at City Hall that deals with new statues. There, in most parks, there is a process that you have to go through. I know in Forest Park there is a statue committee, and I'm trying to think of the last time a new statue has been put up. I remember there's a statue in Grand Center. It's fairly new, 15 years old or so. There are, I know the last statue that went up, statue of Frankie Freeman in Keener Plaza just a couple of years ago, 2 years maybe, was placed in Keener Plaza. And so as individual ideas come through, sometimes there are new statues. Now, if you're talking about putting a statue in place of a statue that has come down, there's only two statues that have come down. One was 3 years ago when the Confederate statue came down in Forest Park. That was a decision made by the mayor's office to take that down, by me personally. And then last week, as you probably know, the Columbus statue came down in Tower Grove Park. So I don't think we're looking for a replacement in Forest Park, although there's a process to do that if you want to explore that.
I think that's all the time we have questions
That's it?
for.
One more?
Well, yeah, they handed me this, but it's not really a question. It just says Freedom Suits soon near Civic Courthouse.
Yes. So, do you all know about Freedom Suits? Judge David Mason, circuit judge, has been for a few years developing this idea of placing statues to the Freedom Suits that occurred here in St. Louis on the east side of the Civil Courts building. And that's something that we are in support of. It hasn't happened yet. I think they're raising money for that. We'll find a link and put it up on our website. That is a very, I think, important and interesting idea. It would provide a real learning opportunity for many people who are unfamiliar with the freedom suits. So we'll put something up about that, and hopefully that'll happen soon. I would love to see all the law firms and attorneys and civil rights leaders in our community come together and raise the money needed to put up the freedom suit statute. Okay, thanks all. Appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday. Appreciate it.
Switch from diet soda and sugary drinks to Hint.
Right now, you can buy 2 cases of Hint water and get a 3rd case free and free shipping. Go to drinkhint.com/radio. drinkhint.com/radio. That's drinkhint.com/radio.
Welcome to Code WAC, your podcast on America's broken healthcare system and how Medicare for All could help. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. Today, we'll continue our discussion on coronavirus, race, and racism.